uh, president. Do I have to tell who's president, or we all know?
We appreciate it if you say it on the record.
Mark Weber and Kevin Fuller, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, citizen concerns? Seeing none? No, that's coming up later. No, well, no, we'll just go on, never mind. Approval of prior month's minutes, you guys.
I have no objections.
Okay, there we go. We'll send them on, then it's approved. 2 vehicles for engineering. This, to me, is not a surprise, right?
No.
Okay.
It was, we budgeted for it during the initial budget process. These are 2 vehicles that have been cascaded down from other divisions, departments. One's a 2003, one's a 2006. They're certainly not fuel efficient. They're not up to today's safety standards. The interiors are in poor condition, I will say. The Expedition does not hold a charge anymore. Even if it sits there for a week inside, it can't hold a charge. So we're constantly having fleet management come over and jump it. They don't have a ton of miles on them, but they're hard miles because they were former police vehicles. So
Both of them were, weren't they?
yes. So both of them, we had budgeted a total of $75,000 for, and the 2 state contract pricing came in below that. One is a Ford Ranger four-cylinder, and the other is a Ford Hybrid Escape. And that's, we were looking, you may recall, originally at electric vehicles, but with the issues that they're having with the Chevy Volt, the only other option was really out there was a Tesla, and we didn't think that we could justify that price point, perhaps. So we went to hybrid vehicles, similar to what the police division is rotating their fleet to.
And I see we got a quote from a local, quote unquote.
We have two different vendors, because 2 different vehicles and 2 different state contracts. So the first one is with Montrose, and that is for the Ford Escape Hybrid. And I believe that's the same state contract vendor for the police vehicles that were recently purchased or ordered. And then Reinke had the state contract for the Ford Ranger.
Not a bad price, considering.
I wish we could all go out and purchase a vehicle for that price. Fortunately, that is not the case.
Nice.
And fuel efficiency nowadays is very important.
Do you guys have any questions? I know we shouldn't be surprised at this because we knew it was coming.
No, since I've been here, the engineering department has not received any vehicles.
And I know.
I thought our inspector had a pickup truck not too long ago.
Oh, yes, you're right, Mark Mayfield.
Okay.
I know Councilman Fuller touched upon this. We are working on doing a replacement schedule for vehicles, right?
We have one definitely for police and fire, and we also are creating one for utilities, but services had one.
Yeah.
And engineering division is kind of, I'll say standalone in some ways, even though it right now technically reports to the service director. That person typically interacts with me on a daily basis. So that's one of the org chart reviews I'm doing for the city, for the mayor, for this year. So there could be some changes that we would request in the future on that particular reporting structure. But yeah, it's been a while since the city engineer and the engineering technician had any vehicles. And I believe before this, it was older police vehicles.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
No, that looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that was just the question I was going to have as far as the schedule. I guess I'm just very surprised that we still have an 03
Right,
in
right.
the fleet anywhere. You're talking a vehicle that's almost 20 years old.
Yeah, well, what's ironic though is the 2003 runs better than the 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2006 we have even more problems with. But what has been in the past, the practice, and I came from an entity that also did this, is there's always a desire to cascade vehicles down to other departments and agencies, where you're typically taking a problem that's in the making, in the works, and giving it to somebody else to deal with. And it's not necessarily a good idea. I know sometimes there's some cost savings if you can keep the vehicle up and running without a lot of repairs, other than your preventative maintenance, that may make sense, but typically these Crown Vics and the Expeditions, I mean, those are hard miles. Those engines are running all day long, 24/7.
Sometimes idling in place. Yeah, I guess, again, some of my only concerns with, I know we've purchased quite a few vehicles already this year for the different departments and things like that, but I know from experience, like typically, like dealing with fleet, like 3 years out, depending on the mileage, you can get a very good resale.
Correct.
Around that time period, and that sometimes we're about the time period too, where things, if they're used hard use, that things start to go wrong with them, so I would rather see in the future, like maybe, it's just your department, but I mean for.
We're not looking, now that we're starting to replace the old police vehicles that were in planning and zoning, these old police vehicles that are in engineering, either this year or next year, we have the public service director's vehicle, which is, again, an old police vehicle. Once we get out of those old police vehicles, we want to get it on a more regular rotation and not wait for those hand-me-downs to come.
Yeah.
To me, it just doesn't make sense with all the technology and changes in fuel efficiency and safety devices. We should be looking at those standards and not looking back to something that was built 20 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
Then the next item we have on the agenda is the award of polymer for the wastewater treatment plant. We're asking you to delete that from your agenda.
Okay.
It will be on PUC's agenda tonight as well. The reason it ended up on this agenda is because the city engineer did all the work to bid it out, and so
I was wondering why it was on.
he's giving us a stack of stuff, and we're like, oh, service, okay.
Yeah.
Bridget's
So,
covering for me, I totally screwed that up, sorry.
I was wondering why it was on there, but.
Yeah, that's the reason. So we just saved you some time there. The next item is State Route 25 Indiana Avenue project. Many of you were on council last couple of years when we were working on this project. So this bid out, we received several bids. I think they're in your packet there. That looks like there's about 7 or 8. No, I'm sorry, 4. Four bids. Lowest bidder was Miller Brothers Construction. They meet all the specifications, all the quantities. This project is funded 80/20, 80% with a CMAQ grant through TMACOG that we received about 3 years ago. And so we're looking to award this contract for the $1,081,000 and change with a 15% contingency. That obviously is our contingency to release, not automatic for the contractor. And then what we would do is we would actually only encumber the city's portion of this, the city's 20% plus the percentage of the contingency. What we're doing is we're switching our methodology when dealing with ODOT on ODOT-funded projects. Before, we used to encumber all the funds, write all the payments to the contractors, and then ask for reimbursement from ODOT. So there's another process, which I'm sure Councilman Attorney is very familiar with, whereas we only encumber our portion of the project. When an invoice comes in, we review it, we check it, we pay our portion of it to the contractor directly. We send that invoice on to ODOT. ODOT does their review and then sends their share directly to the contractor.
And they do the inspection on this, right?
Saves
70%.
This one is not set up, it's an LPA, so it's not set up for ODOT inspection.
Okay.
But we will probably use our own people to do the
Yeah.
inspection work on it.
It's always better when they do it, because then we don't have to pay for it.
They've really moved away from that.
I
mean,
know.
you have to really twist arms and legs into pretzels to get them to do as an LPA. The last time we got them to take on the inspection was on the Fort Meigs Road widening between Roachton and 5 Point. That was in 2013 or 14.
Yeah.
But now that we have our own in-house inspector, if he is available outside of doing the regular resurfacing project, he too then would be available to do the inspection.
Just because I'm curious, who are the other two companies who were the three? I don't have.
It should be in your spread, there should be
There is a very small spreadsheet. So it was Miller Brothers, Shelley, Crestline, and Gherkin.
Okay. And just one more question. Because of the volatility of cost of Oil, is there a asphalt adjustment in the
My
price?
understanding is that there is not.
Fuel price adjustment.
I do not believe that there is. I will verify that with Brian, but when I was talking to him today, it was, this is the guaranteed price.
Okay. Oh, now I see up at the top.
Oh, yeah, way up, yeah.
Did it come in close to engineer's estimate?
It actually came in, I think, below, was it below engineer's estimate? It came in under budget because we had roughly 1.45 budgeted for this project. And so with the contingency, it's coming in just over 1.1.
And when did it go up for bid?
It went out for bid. I think we're asking for this to be an emergency because of when the bid opening took place.
318.
No, the bid opening was last, no, the bid opening
Yeah, it
was last week.
says 318 on the.
Yeah, that's Friday.
My biggest, Brian's request for these to be emergencies is that we want to get these contracts signed as quickly as
Yeah.
possible because we want to lock in the pricing. So-
Yeah.
And then get the work done.
And get the work done.
Construction.
So the city engineer had asked that these things, given the volatility of the market and everything else, be put through as emergencies so that we don't delay an extra 30 days and put anything in jeopardy. He was just pushing for that. And some of the other things, it comes right up to the deadline or within 5 days. Just wanted to try and get this project pushed forward as quickly as possible and get this agreement signed as quickly as possible.
I would agree with that. What's my other question? And it's gonna start ASAP.
That's the plan, yes.
Well, it's gonna be signed ASAP.
We
We'll see what ODOT
we have to wait till the district has finished their sanitary sewer line lining project on
Yeah.
State Route 65,
Yeah.
which should be done at the end of April, is what I'm being told.
Because I think I mentioned to you about how if you bid them at certain times, you get the best price because they don't have their jobs lined up.
Right, they want to fill up their
Yeah,
calendar.
they want to fill, okay.
Yeah, but the goal is to have this, I think the completion date on this is October 31st, just in case, but the goal would be to get this going sooner rather than later.
Looking at the line items, it looks like they're taking it all the way down. You guys look at me like, what?
Which line?
I said, looking at the various line items under roadway, it looks like they're going all the way down and.
Start
Yes.
from scratch.
Start
Yeah,
from
full depth
scratch.
replacement.
Yeah,
For a
Looks like
section of it,
Yeah.
because they will be excavating, because they're putting in a new right turn lane,
yeah.
heading westbound onto northbound. So yeah, that will be full, essentially full depth.
Yes.
And then most of the pavement is in good enough condition, and they'll leave the sub-base is fine, that they'll just do a mill and fill on some of the remaining lanes that aren't being created.
Right. And it looks to me like he expects to have water issues, by the way he's building it.
I don't think the design engineer anticipates water issues.
Usually when they put a geotextile,
I think that was preferred by our current engineer.
which is smart.
Yeah, but actual drainage issues, they don't anticipate.
No, you won't, not with the geo.
The curb cuts for the sidewalk just gonna be the standard width, or are we gonna plan ahead for the possibility of a future multi-use plan?
We will not.
Path, I meant.
We will not be planning ahead for that, but widening a curb cut is easy enough to do.
Okay,
Fix these concrete stone.
Yeah. Duffy's
Well,
concrete cutting.
yeah.
But I mean,
know,
they'll be able to widen that if
There,
and
there, I
when.
mean, I should say, are we allowing for that within our,
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
there'll still be plenty of room
Okay.
in which to do that
all right.
on the north-hand side of Indiana Avenue.
Yes, northeast side, yes.
The south side does not have the room with all the utility and
Right.
traffic controller boxes in it.
Okay. And it lines up with on the north side, lines up with the one
Correct.
across the way.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I was trying to look over the bid.
I would recommend that it goes on to council fund.
Agreed?
Agree?
Then we have our annual sidewalk program. We received one bid on that, even though I think there was 6 companies that pulled the plans. We actually received only one actual bid. It came within the engineer's estimate. I believe it's actually exactly the engineer's estimate. We budgeted 200,000, but we actually made the engineering estimate at 175,000. We just weren't sure what material pricing was gonna look like, and we didn't want to put in too much money, but this allows us to always come back and amend this document if we find we have enough time to do more sidewalk work. So it's M&M Foamworks, and that's who we worked with last year.
Any of the questions?
And satisfied with their work?
The Public Service Department's been very satisfied. We were hoping to get 2 different bidders, one for replacement, one for the leveling grinding, but we got one bid total that can do both.
Kate, I really appreciate in your summaries that you give the explanation on the emergency measure. It's very helpful.
Here for you, Mark.
Thank you.
Here for it.
Thank you.
Now, and I noticed this because I saw it in this too, they're required to submit certified payroll on these
Correct.
jobs.
Yes, and
So
the
that
engineer's assistant reviews those payrolls, signs off on them before any payment is made to the contractor, as well as our construction inspector goes out on site and does the required face-to-face interviews with several of the contractor's employees.
You know, or not if you're caught, you're banned from
I used to do
bidding.
that job. I used to be a prevailing wage quarter for a nanosecond as part of an old job. So used to be a fun job. You used to go out on the streets. That was better than sitting in an office.
Good, I'm glad to see that.
The next item we have, or did you?
Oh,
need to-
wait, you
Yes,
guys have
sorry.
any questions?
Well,
Any questions or concerns?
I didn't really know. I just, that was strange. Is there any reason why we only got one bidder? I mean, I know it's at the will of, right? anyone that submits
Interestingly
a
enough, of
bid.
the 6 companies that pulled bids, one of the companies is an offshoot of this company. They left and formed their own company, and maybe they thought this company had the advantage, I don't know. But the other 4 companies, I want to say 2 of them were familiar to us, and 2 are like out of town companies, but maybe they felt that the work wasn't worthwhile enough to mobilize to this location.
We had the same problem last year, Councilman Fuller.
Same
Some of it
thing.
is because we're not doing like, we don't take like a whole neighborhood and rip up all the sidewalks and then lay them all down. We're kind of hodgepodge, and there's a lot of contractors that don't want that small kind of job, small job work.
Yeah, okay.
Which, the city of Perrysburg paying for sidewalk repairs is very nice of us, because in most other places, nearly all, every place else, they, homeowners, property.
Our codified ordinances does say that.
Yeah.
We have just chose to ignore that and perform the work ourselves.
well, and I know you said they're all over the place with this, but do we have someone of our own that's going around and telling them which ones we want?
Yes,
Or are they
yes.
doing it?
No,
They-
there's somebody who walks the sidewalks every year, and
Okay.
we have a database, and they'll mark in the software program
Mm-hmm,
the ones that they feel need to be level and grind versus those that need to be replaced, because we have a standard spec that says when replacement happens versus when leveling and grinding happens, and then we provide that list in batches to the contractor that's awarded, and they just start working on those batches.
okay.
I'm sure it's all over the place.
Yes, if one of us were to get a complaint from a citizen, are we
They can-
allowed
they
to
can send-
try to add that to the list?
They can send that to Rob Ross, and then Rob will physically go out and see if it qualifies.
Okay.
Because there are many, many slabs that people think are hazardous, but don't meet our requirements. And our standards are very, very similar to a couple other standards of other cities, because we actually borrowed their specifications to make that determination if it's a replacement or a leveling.
Mhm.
Because we have many, many sidewalks that are in much worse condition than some that just have a little pop-up.
Okay,
But he physically goes out and makes that determination.
all right.
I was thinking of a certain council member who runs the sidewalks.
Well, yeah, he'll find them.
He does.
So-
And just, as long as we're on the subject of sidewalks, I sent you and Alice, I think Kevin, you got an email too?
Yeah.
About the sidewalk, and that's more of a public utilities thing, that's why I sent it to you, is those valve boxes that are sticking up out of the sidewalks.
Yeah.
We've talked about the one on Route 25
Yes,
near
yes.
Shell Station, and then the other one is in McKinley Woods on Curtis Lane. I sent you photos, you just recently got the email.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So,
Probably won't start install properly to grade.
I mean, we're talking, one's 4
Yeah,
inches
that's
out of the
what I'm
road.
saying.
At least 4 inches.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, they won't
Yeah.
install
So,
the grade.
I didn't know if you wanted to touch base with Alice when you see her tonight, that if you want to ask where we
Miss
stand on
Bessie
that.
won't be here tonight. She's
Oh.
been off ill for the last couple of days.
Oh, okay. Well, then, I know the last time we brought it up to her, she said there was some sort of machine that there, some type of a tool that was able to get that lowered without digging everything out around it. And that's,
I believe you are correct. Matt will be at the meeting.
oh, okay.
At
Maybe
PUC,
you can
so
explain. Okay.
I will make sure I give him a heads up on this.
All right.
Well, this particular project, the estimated like quantity for this is just a rough idea. It just gives us a ability to operate and make those repairs on the
Yes.
exact amount. Okay.
We don't give them $175,000 at the start and say, go fix it. We make them earn it to get the money.
Okay.
And again, we're the ones who provide them the list of what the priorities are to tackle.
And of course, they check the work before we pay, right?
Yes, yes.
Just,
Rob Ross goes out and inspects, or
I-
Ron Isaacson.
I'm pretty sure I just wanted it out there so people know we just don't pay. They
Oh,
don't
no,
present you with the bill.
They go out and
pay.
make sure the work was performed and performed correctly.
And Ron was a ODOT employee, he's done inspections, so he knows.
Yes.
This company has a Perrysburg address too.
They also look for funding.
What this, M&M Foam Works?
No, one of their.
Talking about the one that we have this with right here,
One of the subs.
East River Road.
Anyways, yeah, send it on to council for approval then?
Yes.
And then we have the request to purchase a replacement refuse truck. Let me make a note here on this for curb boxes, just so I don't forget. And we budgeted $315,000 for a replacement vehicle, and the bids came back at approximately $305,000. And it's gonna replace a 10-year-old truck. That truck we will keep as a backup, so when any of our, either pack rats or our regular one-armed bandits, so to speak, are in getting preventative maintenance or repair, we can pull that old one out and keep rolling to the best of our ability.
Is this one of the new way, the ones that lift the
Yeah,
toters?
Yes.
Okay. We originally were leasing those at first, weren't we? The new
Yes,
ways?
John Eckel started out with a lease program, and then the finance director, myself at the time, didn't understand why we were gonna pay interest every year for 5 years when we had the money available to just purchase them outright. So after the first year, we purchased the fleet outright.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an older refuse truck, older than, this one's not a one-armed bandit that we're replacing.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the older style trucks that we held back as a backup vehicle. So now we're replacing that backup vehicle with a new vehicle, but that will still be a back to the backup vehicle. We have like 2 regular old style refuse trucks, so we'll keep this one, as the backup for preventative maintenance to rotate it in and out.
And we still have the rear loading for the alleys?
Still have the rear loading for the alleys.
Okay.
Affectionately known as the pack rat. I don't know
Pack
why.
rat, okay.
Must be a.
So this one, so there's a current backup, is that one going away then?
There's 2 backups. The oldest backup, I believe, will go. This will become the newest backup for the fleet, and it'll be the old style, which is, I think, our last one. And then the new one coming in will be the one-arm.
Do we sell those, don't we, or differently?
We have, like when we originally transitioned our fleet from old style, the rear loader, to the side load, we got rid of all of them, but like 2 of them, I think, at the time.
I guess, do we send them to,
I think we put them on auction.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Any idea what they might go for it? I don't know what the market is for these things.
Well, I would say
Private.
we just switched to a different auction site, and they tend to do a better job getting interest, and the revenues have increased that we see per per auction item. So I think the last time we recently did an old backup fire engine, I think that they got 12,000 for it.
It's not bad, it's better than paying to get rid of it.
Yeah, it might be worth more in scrap metal
Yeah, right.
than actual rolling stock.
Any more questions?
So, I mean, the price, there can't be many places like shop around for a price on this, right? I mean,
No, and I think this is also state contract.
This is-
Oh, it is?
This
Okay.
is a state contract.
So,
okay, because I noticed the dealer, it looks like it came through Indiana.
Lavery, I believe, is the company, and through Best, it's a Lavery refuse truck through Best Equipment.
Okay.
typically, when it comes to the state, the state set bids.
Yeah, so the Lavery is the model that we're getting through Sourcewell, which is Best Equipment, and they are, I think their headquarters are out of Indiana.
Agreed. Fine with me, Jane.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Sourcewell is different than state contract pricing, so I said that wrong. So Sourcewell
Oh.
is a different national purchasing cooperative,
This is not state.
not state contract, but we're part of the national purchasing cooperative known as Sourcewell.
Okay.
Imagine that works the same way as state purchasing.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be known as like NGPA, National Joint Purchasing Alliance or something, but they changed the name to Sourcewell a couple years ago, I think. Next item, we're asking you to strike from your list, which is 2 portable lifts. We incorrectly added that to your agenda. It was 2 portable lifts that are budgeted for, and they're totaling 19,000. Incorrectly, we thought each of them was 19,000.
Oh.
So when the information came over from service, we didn't realize that. Kate was preparing everything, and then we asked the question and we got clarification.
Just below the,
Can you explain the portable lift, what it
The
does?
portable lift is for vehicle maintenance. So what they'll be able to do is it's called a portable lift, but you're not moving it around.
Yeah.
So we'll have it in the bays, and you're able to roll a car across it and then elevate it so that the mechanic doesn't have to lay on the ground and they have better access to the undercarriage of the car. Kind of like what you see in any regular service station.
I know he doesn't have to go through us, but I'm just curious, what are we using now?
Nothing.
Nothing, okay, well
Correct.
then,
It's an upgrade.
sounds like a great thing.
that's definitely safer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sounds like a
upgrade.
great thing. All
Probably helps
right.
with workers' comp.
Glad to know
claims,
we're
too.
getting it.
And then, so the next item is boom mower. We had budgeted in the 2022 budget funds for a boom mower. And this boom mower consists of a tractor with a cab, and then the actually boom mower, which is an I know that Ms. Maturity knows what it is, has the articulating arm with the mower attached to it. So you drive along the side of the ditch and your boom is down in the ditch and potentially reaching across both sides of the ditch depending on the width of that ditch.
I see it been used on slopes too.
It can be used on slopes, just depending on the, I'll say the grade of the
Yes.
slope for the tractor. We currently farm out this work, $11,000, $12,000 a year, and we don't do all of our ditches for that amount of money. So this gives us the opportunity to do it in-house, do more of the ditch maintenance, and do it more frequently than we currently do. And we think there's some potential for public utilities to also be able to use it.
We still have a remote one for the slopes.
Still have a remote one
Yeah.
for those steeper slopes?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Are there multiple uses for this other than mowing? I mean, with the tractor, is there,
You
I guess,
can-
intended uses at this time?
I would have to ask the mechanics how easy it is to detach the boom, because it's kind of integrated into, because you have like, typically, like, sometimes you have a counterweight on one side, and then you have the boom on the other with the articulating arm, and it's tied into the shaft of the tractor, I believe.
No, right?
So I don't know how easy that is to disassemble. But we think that this, in, 5-6 years, will have paid for itself. Because we'll be able to do more in-house
House, right?
and more frequently. Which will help keep the vegetation down so that we don't run into
Yeah,
Trees.
trees growing and becoming too attached to them.
it will help you with ditch maintenance.
Oh, yeah, yes, clearing, keeping the
Because
waterways
you'll be
clear.
able to see.
So that will come from two different locations, so we have 2 different resolutions for this. One will be for the tractor itself with the cab, and the other is for the boom mower. I think the boom mower is coming from Kalida, and then the tractor's coming from Beller and Sons over in Maumee.
That's why there are two resolutions, because it took logistically figure out how to do one resolution for two different businesses.
All right.
I have no. Much as I want to, I'm not gonna say it.
I have no objections.
Do you
I don't have any,
Okay.
no.
The last piece of legislation we have for you is the retaining wall repair at Maumee Western Reserve Road. That was put in place by ODOT when they did the Maumee Perrysburg Bridge, or the Perrysburg Maumee Bridge, however you want to look at it. Since I hail from Maumee, it's always been the Maumee Perrysburg Bridge. So what we're going to do is we're hiring this firm to come in, take off the cap that's on there now, because what's happening is that cap is leaking, and it's a poured concrete wall with like a brick fascia, so we're getting water behind it, and we're getting cracks in the caulking, in the regular mortar joints, and also in the control joints. So this company will come in, take out any cracked or broken block and replace it. They'll replace the cap with a right-size cap. They'll replace the handrail, make sure the handrail is nicely caulked, and then they'll remove all the caulk and epoxy from the mortar joints and from the control joints and replace those.
That's gotta be at least 20 years old.
It's been a long time since that bridge has been there, it seems like.
Yeah.
Historian will look at the story.
That retaining wall, I remember a classmate of mine was the bricklayer on that.
Because I know I was the project inspector out in this area.
It's been
And
a long
that would have
time.
been over.
Longer than what we
My son-
probably-
It was
my
over
son was
25
about-
years ago.
My son was about 10 and he's now, so it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was-
It's at least 20 years old.
Have we even looked at replacing it all with, ready
We
rock?
have,
the
we
ready
have,
rock?
and that's about $170,000.
Okay,
And since this is not,
Ready
since there's
rock.
not any structural integrity issue with it,
okay.
it is more a maintenance item, we thought that this was the better buy, and we did not have anywhere near $170,000 budgeted.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but is there opportunity in the future? Certainly, as perhaps the gateway changes, and if there's improvements to Orleans Park, that may be a time that you incorporate some of that, but, the good thing is it's not a structural problem.
Yes, yes.
Questions?
No, I,
No, I don't.
good with that?
Remind me to tell you an interesting story about that project too. Okay, next one's on me. I asked her to put these on the agenda, the first one, because I'd like to be updated on, the prices, because it is always, we've been always paid a lot of money for this.
So,
Just read something
what
about
we
the prices get more, so I was
what we
curious.
track currently, and I'll apologize, I have to decipher Judy Higgins' spreadsheet. So I took a class on that this week to make sure I understood it. So this top sheet, she keeps a history from back, I think, from 2012 each year. So what you're seeing here is, at the bottom of this page is all of 2021. And the first column is a month. The second column is the tipping rate we pay when we haul it to the location that we take our recyclables to. Then the tons that were taken that month, what our actual tipping fees were in dollars, and then the recycle rate. Now, the recycle rate here is defined by taking the total tons of recycling, matching it up farther on the right-hand side with the total tons of refuse collected. So 14.5% of all tonnage was recycled in that month. So the tipping fees for 2021 was $96,615. And if you look up at the top of the page, you're seeing the bottom of 2020, where we spent $230,000 in tipping fees for recycling.
So we're actually doing pretty good.
So the reduction was a combination of two things. One, in May of 2021, we took the heavy tonnage glass out of our recycling stream, but we added homes, about 190, I think, last year. But we also saw a reduction in tipping fees because now markets have opened up in the U.S. for recycling material, recyclable material. Whereas before, There was no market here, and China was taking all of our recyclables. Then they stopped taking them. Then we were having to pay essentially a tipping fee of almost $140 a ton for the recycler to get rid of that tonnage because he had no market for it. But now there's a market for it. So sometimes you see our tipping fees for that month are extremely low. But we're not back to the days of when the recycler is actually handing us a check.
Right, but we're not handing as much
We're
over
not-
to them.
we're not investing as much money to
Right.
recycle as we used to invest.
That's what I was curious about, because I told you I read an article somewhere that there's more stateside recycling, the price was.
And I can certainly send you the entire spreadsheet that goes back to 2012. I just always have to remind myself whenever Judy sends this to me, I have to re-educate myself on how she has her columns set up. So under refuse, it just shows the tonnage, what we typically pay at Republic's landfill. That's where we typically take our refuse to. But then on occasion, if that site is down for whatever reason, then we take it to Wood County. And those next columns are the tonnage that we take to Wood County landfill and what we're paying there in landfill fees.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions?
No.
Have we seen any, I guess, increase in like the tonnage, on the refuse side?
Well, interesting
Because
question.
people are putting glass now in the garbage can instead of taking it to OI.
Interesting question, because if you look at refuse in June of 2021, you see a huge bump.
Mhm.
So we don't know if that's because people started, because in May is when we started the glass recycling program. So we don't know if that was because everybody was either confused what they were supposed to do and dumped it in the garbage, or if we just had an unusually high month of refuse collection. But then it's kind of sort of steadied off there. So it's hard to say. You know, Judy assumes that there's people who absolutely just throw it in the garbage and it goes to the landfill, which we only pay $41 a ton for, versus putting it in their car to take it to service, utilities, or OI, or to one of the Wood County sites, or Bowling Green's 24-hour site. But on the whole, I think she feels very comfortable with where the program's at. And I think,
Okay.
Councilman Materney, you also had a question
Yeah.
about exactly that, recycling sites.
Yes, I do, because.
Because you're getting questions.
I'm not Mr. Weber, I don't get that many.
But just for your information, or to make sure that you know.
The
that
hotline.
This is a snapshot from our website. So if you go out on our website, it shows that we are advertising to take your glass recycling to either OI, Department of Public Service, or Department of Public Utilities.
As well, I think Judy, later on in the website, also has a link to Wood County Solid Waste Management District, which then has 12 locations where you can take all of your recycling to, as well as they denote the BG Recycling Center, which is open 24 hours a day.
And ours are not open 24 hours.
Correct. There has been past experience with trying to have those sites open. What happens if they're open after business hours, after our business hours? They're no longer recycling, they now become a refuse collection site. And people will throw bags of garbage into the recycling toters. They'll throw different products into glass or plastic, into cardboard, into metal, and then we have to end up taking it to the landfill because we don't have the capability, the manpower, nor the right tools to sort that stuff out of recyclables because we're dealing with sharp metals, glasses, and lots of workers' comp claim waiting to happen. So we do keep those sites closed. We've been asked before to open them in the evenings, and we have found that it turns into a refuse collection site as well as then other jurisdictions whose residents have to pay for their own refuse collection tend to bring their garbage over to our location and drop it off for free.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, because that's one of the things I'm asked. I have any other business?
Yes, I do. I was trying to find Do you have something?
No, I know what you're.
And I was trying to find that email that I sent,
You sent an email
About
last week about.
painting on
Correct.
bridge.
So I spoke with ODOT, and their response is that we are supposed to call them when there's graffiti on one of their underpasses, overpasses. And so we obtained the name and number of two different individuals that we can call. We've already reached out to them through public service as well, and they will be taking care of the infrastructure, of their infrastructure. They said we are not allowed to paint it. We could certainly apply for a permit to do something, I'll say with an underpass or an overpass. They would have to review that, approve it, but they said when it comes to painting an underpass, that's something they've never given permission for, because you want to use the right product, the right sealants on their structures. The only one that they could think of that they've ever granted a permit for was either the city of Sylvania or Sylvania Township, where the way that they had an underpass set up is that they were having, I'll say, migrants, transitory people climbing up underneath the bridge decking. So they asked for what is called a vandal fence, where they would install fencing and kind of cage in an area so that somebody couldn't go up underneath the underpass and live. In this situation, that tool is not available to us because there's a 10-foot wide multi-use path right next to it. So there's not a way to cage that in to actually protect that.
But who's painting it now?
I found out that we were erroneously painting it.
We were painting those.
Which is a
Yes.
shame, because
With-
we assume liability. They could clearly come back on us and say, your paint damaged our concrete, you guys are on the hook for the repair of these.
So they were actually sending somebody from ODOT out there to take a look at that particular bridge above.
Okay, they can look at it and then maybe at least paint it all the same color or something, because it
I
really
don't-
looks bad
I
now with
don't
all the
believe
different,
that
we're
ODOT
using whatever paint we had in
Yeah,
stock,
I
I'm
believe that
sure.
ODOT will not
They won't.
start painting an entire bridge abutment, because then they're gonna have to
Well, I
repaint
know,
it.
I'm talking about if there's any more graffiti when they cover over it, can they at least,
I am assuming so, because
Use one
I
color.
explained the concern,
yeah.
you know, like pick Battleship Gray, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
whatever
pick
colors.
one color and stick with
So
it,
they
but we have
understood
a
the
pink,
They understood the
peach,
concern, so
yeah,
hopefully
white.
that will happen. I would imagine that they're using some standard
Yeah, we.
ODOT specification.
No, probably, but you also, you can't get them to work as fast as we can get over there and throw some paint
That
on
depends.
top of the.
That's not
if it's-
necessarily true. If it's gonna be the county facility, and they can be a little faster than the.
Yeah.
In fact, who they ask, who do you know?
So we have a hotline we can call when we see some graffiti
Yes,
on there?
I talked to Dave Greco, the bridge engineer out of District 2, and he said that he's a contact, or David Knavel.
Yeah, Dave Canadian. You have any-
So now we have a plan anyhow,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
when we see
We
getting
know-
more
we know what
graffiti,
the
we can
process
at least.
Dave is the manager of the Wood County facility, so he could send his people out pretty quick, and that would be a good job.
Could we at least, it looks so many different colors right now, could we ask them to, could you at least go over and give it
Color
a
coordinated.
color coordinate, make it look, I mean, it really looks like, I don't wanna, the inner city of a big
You know,
city.
it's funny, because
It looks like the underpass in a big
I
city.
drive all the time, I never notice it.
Well-
I drive underneath there all the time.
Once again, I'm acting on a citizen's
Oh,
complaint.
I know.
I really am.
I know, but no, it's just funny how I
Yeah.
go that way to work every day, thanks
Yeah.
to the fact that Indiana shut down.
I actually
And I don't notice it.
didn't notice it because I just don't go by it every day, but you might probably do.
We can certainly make the request.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't-
you can
doesn't
always
cost
ask.
Doesn't hurt to ask, and
If
But-
there's graffiti out there and they gotta come and paint over it, they could just do it all at once. I imagine they're probably gonna, just make sure we didn't compromise the concrete.
okay, well, now we know. Thanks for following up on that, Bridget, I
Hey,
appreciate
I learned
it.
something.
And I will, I'll get back to the citizen that asked me and let them know.
Is that all we have? Do you have anything, Kevin?
I didn't have anything now.
I had one other item just to, for
It's too
informational
late.
purposes. It's too late. Oh,
I'm just.
Mr. Weber will be very disappointed if he doesn't.
I'm
hear
only
this.
teasing, go ahead.
I just want to let this committee know that we finally got back our proposal from Tetra Tech Engineering for the Phase 3 multi-use path.
Oh, yeah.
Between the
Yeah. Yes.
west end of Riverside Park to Green Lane.
Yeah.
They were the firm that was originally selected to do all of the design work on all sections of the
Right.
path. So we blew the dust off of that agreement from back in 2010, 2011. And they gave us a proposal. It is more than double what we have in the budget currently. So in our 403 capital budget, we had 85,000 budgeted for design. That was me doing a dartboard before we had a city engineer in. So this is not Brian's fault. But the estimate for design services came back at 180,000, and they are suggesting 200,000 to have some sort of contingency, especially because of the topographical challenges of traversing the westernmost section of the pathway. We're going to have to stay within our right-of-way, which kind of puts us in a boggy area that will have to have some sort of retaining wall and/or bridge structure. So what I have to do is I have to ask Councilman Smith if this is a recreation item or if this is a service item, because this particular path has always been a service item, but I just want to double check that.
It begins to the west of the existing park though, right?
On the west side of Riverside.
Of Riverside, so,
And then continues down to Green Lane.
yes. But then would that be considered a park that, I mean, if,
We
is it,
have-
it would
we
be
have not-
continuation of
We
our
have not
park?
considered any of the multi-use paths along the river a recreation project,
Okay,
but that may have changed in the minds of some council members, so I'm just going to.
that's fine, cover it
Now,
down.
where is this again? I haven't.
So if you're down at the
Phase 3.
lower end of Riverside Park, and you're facing the river, if you look off to your left, on the west end of Riverside Park.
To connect to what the,
No, I was getting Riverside and Rivercrest
Oh,
confused,
gotcha.
and I'm like, now I know, okay.
Yeah, so this takes the
the one we've been
existing
waiting for a
pathway,
long
Yes.
time.
connects it up with Green Lane.
Oh, nice, and it does get blocked.
We understand, and we recognize that this path will be removed at some point in the future when the CSO issue is resolved with the OEPA, and we have to put in a parallel sewer down along it. But we think that's far enough out that it makes sense to do this now.
Would it,
Made sense to do it in 2010.
yes, would it be a viable alternative to use like crushed stone instead?
As long as it's ADA,
Oh, yeah.
and then we still have the issue of navigating, almost like a ravine bog
Yeah.
kind of area.
I was just curious.
How about grant money towards this? Do we have,
This is grant money, we have grant money. There's still only, I would say there's about 180,000 left of grant money for the actual construction. Because if this would have all been built when the grant was granted, the cost of doing this would have been much, much less. And the grant would have covered a lot more.
Imagine back.
But since this got broken up over a decade or more, those prices inflated, labor inflated, and,
Restrictions.
yeah, the construction cost index has gone up
Yeah.
exponentially. So there is some amount of grant dollars here. If we were to apply for a grant today, we could certainly do that, but then you're looking at 2027
oh,
in
yeah.
What
order to
about-
receive those funds.
Reshuffling our ARPA funds.
Well, that was something I had mentioned, and I'm glad we're still in those discussions.
Yeah.
We only have one reading so far.
Right.
But now that we have this number
This.
Well, we have this number for design,
Right,
for design,
that's not the construction number.
right, construction is 200.
but we did put $80,000 in for design of the McKinley Woods Park, so I think this is something that's,
We should consider.
the citizens have been desiring for quite some time, is to have access to the river for everyone down there. And
Most-
especially ADA access.
And I don't know what the timeline is once this committee, the appropriate committee is selected and it is approved, I'm not sure if it's a 6-month design, is it a 3-month design? It would not be built this year for
Yeah.
sure.
No,
So you would certainly have the opportunity for full funding in the 2023 budget. It could be bid this year to then be constructed spring of 2023.
you can do the option of design build.
We could, it would not be Tetra Tech. We would have to go out and do
Right.
RFQs for design build because they don't do design build projects.
So it might, it could potentially be cheaper.
Well, I'm very glad to see it moving
Yeah, I am
forward.
too.
So we're trying to
Good.
ensure along.
So is that path, I'm just kind of looking at here on the map, does that go through will it go through private property, or is that a
It will not go through
city,
private property.
that's an
It'll
easement?
go, city has right-of-way
Right away?
all the way down there. What happens, when you get to the west end of what looks like a path, if you've ever walked that,
Yep.
you kind of take a little jaunt to the left. That is not city property. People have over time created their own path through private property. The homeowner's been very gracious about allowing that to happen, but our right-of-way is straight, and so what we have to do is stay on our right-of-way, but we're gonna have to bridge two spots with some like helical piers and a concrete walkway. So there's probably 10 different ways to do that. None of it's difficult, it's just getting that design, and it can certainly happen.
The right of way we have, Kevin, is 60 feet wide.
60 feet? Okay, yeah, I was just trying to get an idea.
We have plenty of right-of-way,
Just
just
the map here, I'm looking at
instead
just
of
Google.
making a bend that it looks like it's taking, it's actually staying straight.
And it cuts across, I don't know what you call them, like little inlets or something.
Yeah, there's that inlet back in there
Yeah.
between our plant and
Yeah.
Greenling.
I mean,
So I wanted to give this committee the update. You may see this come back to you, or you may see it at recommendation.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good. If nothing else, Kevin?
Anything else?
Nope.
We'll adjourn then.